We're one idea or one relationship away from the next level of prosperity. So create a habit on a daily basis.
Say that again. I think we need to hear that more than once.
One relationship or one idea away from the next level of prosperity.
Yep.
Money can be complicated. Let a nerd help you. We're here to demystify the complex nature of money by getting you answers from financial nerds and whiz kids. Welcome to Ask the Money Nerds, a weekly segment of the Wealth Labs podcast where we answer your most pressing money questions. Would you like to invest, but you just don't have the money to invest? How do you get started even if you don't have an income or just don't have enough income? What are the best resources and ways to become more resourceful? It doesn't necessarily take money to make money. I know that's a saying that everybody says, but what can you do with little or no money? All right, let's jump into this. This is one of my favorite topics and probably my most useful equation that I use in my own life for the last 10 years. It's about finding hidden capital.
Okay. Before we dig in, I have some news for you.
Oh.
Did you know today's our 100th episode?
100th episode.
Can you believe it? 100 episodes together. On
the podcast, or we've got more than that, videos on YouTube. But
no, the 100th episode of the Wealth Labs podcast.
Wow.
I think that I should have brought party hats and blowhorns and streamers and everything to celebrate. This is exciting.
We could like put that in post-production.
Yeah.
Like, have it be digital versions.
A bunch of emojis on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's dive into Daniel's question.
Okay.
It's a little bit longer, so we might stop and break it up throughout, but here we go. Fine. Says Garrett up front. I love your videos and your mission.
Nice.
Thank you. I have zero assets, about $1,000 to work with. I'm an unemployed employee. Not only did my company shut down, but they also burned down. So I'm looking at being unemployed until October. My investor DNA lines up with real estate investment. I come from a strong construction background. However, I can't bring myself to invest in this through any type of loan because I'm unemployed.
Right.
I have a 2-year-old and I just can't risk not being able to pay my bills. Makes sense. He says, I do know that this is the scarcity mindset, which I might challenge him on that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about that.
Yep. I'm a conservative planner and I just really need the extra information to get me to commit. I know there's a way but I just can't see it. I've read 2 of your books and 3 real estate books, as well as countless podcasts and webinars. In your opinion, is this a good time to invest in real estate, or should I focus on cash flow banking and wait for that best opportunity? I'm 36 years old. What's your best advice?
Right now is not the time for cash flow banking for his situation. So
and why is that?
Because he's unemployed with a small amount of money, and that's more of a place to store your income and start saving a percentage. Now is a dangerous time in real estate. It's not a bad time. It's just a dangerous time. So if you get started in a time where things are massively appreciating, it covers up some of your mistakes.
Yeah.
When we're dealing with a lot of the uncertainty, because who knows what's going to happen with lenders? Are they going to tighten up lending because of defaults? It just means, okay, well, if you make a mistake, it might really hurt, right? Now, there's plenty that you can do even if you don't have good credit or even if you don't have income coming in. There's things like lease options that you're not getting bank financing for or subject to, where you might just be taking over someone's payment, but you got to make sure that it could be cash flow positive if you don't have income coming in. So that can also be dangerous. But since right now he's got more time than money, see, people that have a lot of money but less time, they can hire people directly, right? They could build a team. They could hire a mentor that works with them to get really succinct information that directly applies to what they're looking for. But when you've got more time, then it's really about creating a schedule that you act as if you're employed as a real estate investor. And so there's plenty of programs that are very inexpensive. I mean, maybe even as cheap as $97 that have plenty of great content. It's just that a lot of people won't go through the content. So they're willing to pay a lot more money just to get that one-on-one attention. So I would take a small portion of that to invest in real estate education. But it's really about picking a lane. Do you want to do fix and flips? That's, finding a property that's maybe needs a little bit of a sweat equity that if you have some skills. I don't really have those skills, but let's say people have skills where they go fix that up on their own and turn around and sell it. It is a competitive market that way. Or maybe you're looking at single family residences or duplexes or fourplexes, right? And you're looking to get that and rent that out and be cash flow positive. But you and I know someone by the name of Brian Page.
Yes.
He has a pretty fascinating system where he's basically teaching people that without any money, they can go and lease a place, right? And even partner with the person that owns the property and then they Airbnb that property. Now, there's certain places in the country where that is absolutely not going to work right now because of COVID. There's other places where it works extraordinarily well. I just did an article in Forbes where there was these 2 real estate investors that I was interviewing, and they're 3 hours north of Manhattan, and they're just totally booked out with their Airbnbs because people wanted to get out of the city during COVID and not be, just trapped in their small apartments. And so that was a great thing for them because they're in the right area. So you really have to understand the area that you're going to get into. But Brian was able to have no money. He just had a roommate that left, and he's like, all right, I'll rent out this room. Started making that not only pay for his rent, he actually made a positive return. So he started going out to other landlords, and saying, hey, I'd like to partner with you. I'll make sure that you're paid the amount that you need just to cover what you would normally lease this out for. But then we can actually share in a percentage of the gains above that. So no money. It just required the time. Then eventually he started to hire people to help him manage it so that he could travel. I don't know how many different countries and places that he was traveling at one time because he had this freedom by building that infrastructure. My co-author, Nick Halleck, who with 5 Day Weekend, does much of the same thing where he's got all these properties, but he's a gypsy. He's all over the place, and he just manages it from his phone because he has a team that's kind of that infrastructure. So it doesn't necessarily take money to make money. It takes value creation. It takes resourcefulness. And the hidden capital that people have is their mental capital and relationship capital, which I'll have you define.
Oh my. Okay.
I'm just throwing you on the spot here in the 100th episode.
I guess I can call myself a money nerd now if I'm answering some questions.
Let's see.
So relationship capital, that one feels the most obvious, right? It's the people in your life that you can tap into, create synergy with, to create something new together.
Absolutely. People, networks, organizations, friends, family, mentors, tenants, if we're talking real estate, right?
Yes. Yeah. And mental capital is everything that your skill and your expertise. That doesn't mean, I think sometimes when we think mental capital, we have to be like the best of the best, but you don't. Everybody has knowledge that they can share with people within their pool and their community. So everybody has it. Everybody has something to share. Right.
So when you can tap into developing mental capital to become a better real estate investor, that's going to give you an advantage versus people who might just be getting it because like when I first got involved in real estate, I didn't have a lot of discernment. I just was like, oh, that's a deal. Let's do it. And I got lucky a few times. And then I realized that it was more about luck than intelligence and other times. So I would pick a lane, like what is it that you want to learn about real estate? Where do you want to dive in and try to get as much mental capital and expertise around that? And then who do you know that you could learn from or partner with? Maybe they've got good credit, but they've got less time. I did a lot of deals that way early on where I was like, well, I've got the money, they've got the expertise.
Yeah.
Those are a little bit dangerous because if that person with the expertise walks away, you now have a property and you've got to figure out the expertise.
Yeah.
But I absolutely think that you can do these things because other people might have good credit if you don't. Other people might have money if you don't. But what you've got to bring to the table is unique mental capital.
Yeah.
Why would that real estate property be profitable? What is it that you see that someone else doesn't see? Brian Page had mental capital that was extraordinarily unique where he's able to come in and go, well, look, we can partner. I can make you more money than what you would normally get just by getting a single tenant. And so that added a lot of value. And we've seen that happen with a lot of our Wealth Factory clients where they had real estate that was maybe negative cash flow or it wasn't working out. And they started to employ an Airbnb strategy and start get positive cash flow on their properties because it's more active because you have more, you have someone coming in for a weekend or for a week and then you got to, rent it back out and, you're dealing with that. So yeah, it's more active, but it's also providing more value. It's also providing more cash. And so this is the way I would kind of look at it.
Yeah. I would say that's a great example of collaboration. Finding ways to collaborate with people is essential.
Absolutely. So I'm just looking at some of the notes that we took here, but the key here is invest in education and invest in relationships. I mean, are the relationships that they're doing really well and they could use someone that's got time on their hands?
Yeah.
Right. And that you could add that value, learn from them, even if you're just learning from them and not profiting on a property, but you're seeing how they do it, how they structure it, how they find it. Find those types of people and add value to their life. Make deposits in that relationship capital with your time and in exchange, learn from them. Like that's an absolutely huge way. That's what I did when Stephen Harrop was my professor, but he knew a lot about money management, one of the top money managers in the world before he became a professor. So I played racquetball with him. I worked out with him. And then I got to sit down with him and have lunch or a ice cream afterwards, which is why you work out. So you could have the ice cream afterwards, Stova. And I got to ask him questions. I got to learn from him, right? So I wasn't paying him directly. I was finding out what was valuable to him, which he wanted to get in better shape. I knew something about that. So I just brought my unique mental capital to the table and built that relationship. People are underutilizing relationship capital. It's the most valuable yet underutilized asset. They're afraid to ask for support. They're afraid to ask for help. They're, and it's not a, hey, can I pick your brain? Because that's too one-sided. It's like, hey, what are you looking for? What are you valuing? And I think everything's within reach or referral with mental or relationship capital.
Yeah, I love that line. What you're talking about goes beyond the standard or the traditional view of networking. It's not just swapping a business card with someone. It's not saying, hey, can I take you to coffee and pick your brain? It's more in depth. It's more reciprocal.
Yep.
And finding creative ways to engage with people that offer mutual value is...
Right.
Is obviously a
We're
win.
one idea or one relationship away from the next level of prosperity. So create a habit on a daily basis.
Say that again. I think we need to hear that more than once.
One relationship or one idea away from the next level of prosperity.
Yep.
But what is the game that you want to play in real estate? Why does real estate interest you? What type of real estate interests you? What ways could you create cash flow? What value could you bring to the table that isn't already being brought to the table? What's the thing that you could dive in so deep that you really understand it at a very deep level? I spread myself thin in real estate early on. I had, properties that were single family, then I had duplex, then I did some commercial. I just did too much without getting expertise in just one and dialing that in. The only thing that I really do now is lease options, properties that I own, that I turn around and I gave to investors, that they make the payment, they manage the property, but I'm basically the bank for them. And then if they sell it, they get the appreciation because they cared for it, but maybe they didn't have the credit. But they were willing to go in and fix the properties because they had deferred maintenance. They're willing to work with the tenants. So I get a little bit of cash flow. They get the majority of it and they get the appreciation. But what it does is it prevents me from having to spend too much time in real estate. So that's been my kind of method at this point.
Yeah. It's finding your niche. Like in business, we talk about what's your avatar, what's your audience. But when you're looking at your investor DNA, it's like really hone in and find your niche, like get down to the nitty gritty details of what it is that you want to learn and invest your time in.
Yep. So how do you create mental capital and how do you multiply that? For me, I multiply it by meeting people and getting those direct conversations. I add to it by listening to things or reading things. So you find your multipliers there. And then in those relationships, just find the ones that are going to be the most meaningful and invest more time in them. Invest more time in them and the ones that are willing to invest back into you. I mean, I'm doing that right now. I have a speech coming up because when I was a teenager, I was in a program called Governor's Honors Academy, right? Where I got to meet so many fascinating people, inventors and scientists and senators, and it expanded my mind. And now I'm going back for, I don't know, I think this is my third time to give a speech and to kind of pay it forward. So I think that there's people willing to do that out there. You just have to look for it and be willing to ask questions. I think that there's such an access to information if you have good questions and if you are willing to learn. A lot of people love to pay that forward. They love to see someone that's curious. They love to see someone that's willing to go out there and do it. And a lot, I did this interview just the other day with Clayton Morris, and he was on a flight to New Zealand, and in the last hour started talking to someone sitting next to him who is a great real estate investor. Clayton was only going to be there for 5 days. This person was going to be there for 2 months. He's like, how do you do that? I got to go back to my job. He goes, well, I'm a real estate investor. And he just gave him the equations. What does he do? How does he look for the properties? What are the, and then Clayton was able to go invest in real estate and then replace that salaried income. He just found that one niche in real estate. So don't try to learn it all. Maybe take a sampling to say, what is it that really interests me? What really intrigues me? What am I willing to dedicate substantial time and really dive into? And that's the key. Focus, don't diversify.
Yeah, that's a good reminder.
All right. So I think we've answered a few questions here. The value equation looks like this. Mental capital times relationship capital equals financial capital. So if you want more money, think of new ways that you can provide value from the people that you know and that you could learn from and the ideas that you have. And the bridge between our mental and relationship capital is called business. And the way that we build that bridge is through serving others and solving problems. All right. So you can use your time. You can bring in sweat equity. You could become an apprentice. There's so many things that you could do that doesn't require money. Get more resourceful. That's how you turn your ideas into profits. And remember, build the life you love.